What if everything you believe about love is a lie? You grow up thinking marriage is the goal. You think it will give you peace. You think it will make you whole. You are told to chase the one. You are told to settle down. You are told to build a life with someone else. You are told this is what makes you complete. But what if this is the very thing that destroys you? Most men do not marry out of strength. They marry out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being judged. Fear of missing out. They do it to please others. They do it to check a box. They do it because they think it is the right thing. But deep down, they feel something is off. Something feels wrong, but they cannot say it out loud. They trade their freedom for comfort. They give up their solitude. They stop growing. They stop thinking. They slowly die inside and call it maturity. They pretend they are happy. They pretend they are safe. They pretend this is life. But their eyes are empty. Their minds are tired. Their spirit is gone. Marriage is not what you think it is. It is not built on truth. It is built on illusion. It sells you the dream of love, but gives you the weight of duty. It promises connection, but delivers control. It takes your hunger and replaces it with routine. It takes your edge and softens it with guilt. It tells you this is what makes a man, but it never asks what a man truly needs. This is not about hate. This is about waking up. Before you hand over your future, before you lose yourself to a system that does not care who you are, this is your warning. Listen closely. Once you get married, your time stops being yours. You think you will still have your mornings. You think you will still have your space. You think your schedule will stay yours. But it does not. It gets filled fast. You wake up and there is already something you need to do. Something for someone else. A talk you did not ask for. A plan you did not make. A feeling you need to manage. And it keeps happening. Every day. You are no longer allowed to check out when you need to. You cannot walk away when you are tired. You cannot go silent when you want to be alone. Every moment is now shared. Every hour must be explained. And if you do not explain it, you are called distant. You are called selfish. You are called cold. You do not get to say no without a reason. You do not get to rest without guilt. You do not get to disappear and come back when you feel ready. There is always something waiting for you. A mood you must notice. A task you must finish. A demand you must answer. And if you ignore it, you are the problem. You are not allowed to be unavailable. You are not allowed to say you are not in the mood. You are supposed to be present. You are supposed to care, even when you do not. At first, it seems small. A quick errand, a short conversation, a simple request. But it grows. It becomes your life. It takes your peace. It takes your energy. And it does not stop. Because marriage expects you to always be on. And when you are always on, you start to forget what you were before it all began. Before marriage, you are wanted. You are chased. You are chosen. You are seen as someone to impress. You are the prize. Everything you do is interesting. Everything you say is noticed. Your silence is mysterious. Your presence is enough. You are not expected to explain yourself. You are allowed to have your own world. You are not questioned for it. You are respected for it. But the moment you agree to stay, all of that changes. You go from rare to common. You go from powerful to predictable. You are no longer a man who can walk away. You are now a man who is stuck. The shift is quiet, but clear. You become something to manage, something to fix, something to change. Not because you failed, but because now you are available. And when you are available, you stop being exciting. You stop being a challenge. You stop being the man she once wanted to win. Now you are just the man she needs to adjust. The man who must grow. The man who must do better. You are no longer free to just be who you are. You are now measured by how well you adapt, how much you give, how soft you become. Your edge becomes a flaw. Your strength becomes a threat. Your silence becomes a problem. You lose leverage. You lose distance. You lose the mystery that once made you valuable. And you are not rewarded for your commitment. You are slowly reshaped. Not because you are not enough, but because marriage expects you to stop being a man for yourself. You are now expected to be a man for someone else. And that change is rarely noticed until it is too late, until you realize you are no longer seen the way you once were. In the beginning, everything feels fresh. You believe what you build will stand on its own. You think if you are honest, loyal, and steady, you will be trusted. You think if you treat her well, she will not question you. But what you do not realize is that she comes with memories. She comes with wounds. She carries the weight of every man who hurt her. She may smile at you. She may say she trusts you. But deep inside, she waits to be disappointed. And the moment you say or do something that reminds her of a past she never healed from, she will react to you like you are him. You will be blamed for words you never said. You will be accused of things you never did. You will feel like you are defending yourself against shadows. And the harder you try to prove yourself, the more guilty you look. You will feel confused. You will question your tone. You will question your actions. You will apologize for things that made sense at the time. You will become careful with every word, not because you are wrong, but because you know what it will turn into. You start to walk on edge, not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. You are not trying to win an argument. You are just trying to keep the peace. And this becomes normal. You accept it because you think it will stop. But it does not. It becomes a cycle, a loop, a script that repeats itself. And no one warns you that her pain has nothing to do with you, but it becomes your job to carry it anyway. You do not just marry her, you marry her past, and you pay for what others did. At first, she tells you she loves you for who you are. She says she wants you just as you are. You believe her. You feel safe. You feel seen. But slowly, it starts to change. She does not ask you directly. She just begins to point things out. She does not like how much time you spend alone. She does not like how you talk to other women, even if you are not flirting. She wants you to text her more often. She wants you to say the right words at the right time. She wants you to know what she feels without her telling you. And if you do not, she says you are distant, or careless, or cold. The list grows. You do not notice it at first. But after a while, you feel watched. You feel tested. You feel like there is a correct version of you, and the real one is not enough. You begin to adjust. You become more careful. You hold back. You try to avoid conflict by doing what she expects. And sometimes, she rewards you. Sometimes she smiles and says, "This is why she loves you." And then it repeats. More rules appear, more conditions, not written, not spoken, just felt. And if you break them, she withdraws. She becomes quiet. She makes you feel like something is wrong with you. So you chase. You try to fix it. You try to win her back. But what you do not see is that love has become a test. You are no longer free to be yourself. You are now trying to match her image of the man you are supposed to be. And if you stop trying, you lose her. But if you keep trying, you lose yourself. There is a kind of silence that only a man understands. It is not emptiness. It is not loneliness. It is space. It is clarity. It is the feeling of being with yourself without noise. This silence is where your thoughts form. It is where your mind settles. It is where your strength lives. But when you let someone into your life too closely, that silence begins to disappear. Not because she speaks too much, not because she is loud, but because her presence always wants your attention. She wants connection. She wants presence. She wants you to listen, and when you do not, she feels ignored. She thinks you are hiding. She starts asking questions. She starts saying things feel off, and suddenly, your silence is no longer yours. You try to explain that you just need space, that you are not upset, that you are just thinking. But she hears that as distance. She takes it personal. She wants to talk through it. She wants to know what is on your mind. And slowly, you feel pressure. You feel like silence is no longer safe. So you fill it. You talk more than you want to. You pretend to be fine. You act like everything is good just to avoid her discomfort. But something in you knows what you have lost. You no longer sit in peace. You no longer go deep into yourself. You become alert even when nothing is wrong. You feel watched even when she is not there. And then you begin to miss yourself. Not because you hate her, not because she is bad, but because you gave up the one place that made you feel grounded. And the worst part is that once you lose that silence, you stop noticing it was ever there. There is a quiet shift that happens in most relationships. At first, everything feels free. You both speak your mind. You both respect each other's space. But over time, the balance changes. You start to notice that her mood depends on how you respond. You start to notice that if you are quiet, she thinks something is wrong. If you are tired, she takes it personally. If you are focused, she says you are distant. Suddenly, your job is no longer just being present. Your job is to manage how she feels about everything you do. You are expected to stay calm when she is upset. You are expected to listen when you want silence. You are expected to be emotionally available, even when your mind is full. And the moment you stop doing that, she feels neglected. You begin to carry weight that was never yours. You start to filter your tone. You start to second-guess your honesty. You avoid conflict not because you are weak, but because you know what it will cost. You feel like every move has to be thought through. Not because you are scared of her, but because you are tired of the tension. You start lying about little things, not to betray her, but to protect peace. You smile when you are not happy. You agree when you want to say no. You apologize just to end the fight. You do this enough times, and you lose the strength to be real. You feel like you are parenting an adult. You start to dread small conversations. You begin to check yourself more than you check the world. And slowly, you stop expressing what you feel. Not because you do not care, but because you know it will be used against you. Most men do not notice it until it is too late. At first, you give your time because you want to. You enjoy the moments, you choose them, but that choice slowly becomes a rule. You start being expected to always be around. If you want to stay late at work, you are questioned. If you want to spend the weekend alone, you are guilted. If you say you are tired, it turns into an argument. What once felt like freedom now feels like permission. You begin to feel like you have to explain your every move. You lose the space that once helped you think. Your time is no longer something you protect. It becomes something you owe, and you are reminded of that again and again. You cannot sit in silence without being asked what is wrong. You cannot take a break without being told you are distant. You cannot spend time with your friends without it turning into a problem. She expects your availability without limits. She expects attention on demand. And if you do not give it, she takes it as rejection. You stop doing things that recharge you. You stop investing in your own rhythm. And over time, your schedule stops being yours. You cannot build anything when your time is always up for debate. You cannot grow when every decision needs approval. You cannot think clearly when you are always on call. You live in reaction, not in purpose. You start giving out time just to avoid drama. But every time you do that, you lose a piece of yourself. A man who does not guard his time loses his focus. And when he loses his focus, he stops being who he is. Not because he changed, but because he gave it all away. At first, it seems like nothing changes. You think you can keep your goals the way they are. You tell yourself your drive will stay strong. You plan your future the way you always have. But slowly, the energy you once used to build something bigger is spent on staying balanced at home. You are asked to do more outside your purpose and less inside your vision. You start to compromise in places that used to matter. The small things you skip turn into habits. You stop pushing as hard because peace feels more urgent than growth. You start to settle in areas that used to drive you. You begin to think less about your long-term goals and more about short-term approval. You take fewer risks because stability becomes more important than expansion. You lose the edge that made you different from everyone else. You feel like you are always negotiating your path instead of walking it. You avoid tension, not because you are afraid, but because you are tired. And with every sacrifice, your fire gets a little smaller. She may say she supports you, but that support fades when your pursuit demands more time than she wants to give up. When you choose your vision, it feels like rejection to her. So you start to adjust. You shrink the mission. You pause your plans. You say it is temporary, but it becomes normal. Ambition needs space. It needs silence. It needs full focus. Marriage does not allow that. It needs agreement. It needs approval. It needs permission. And by the time you realize how far you have drifted, your momentum is gone. Not because you gave up on your dream, but because the dream was not built to survive a life that always asks for your attention first. In the beginning, you are appreciated. Every effort feels seen. Your words are heard. Your intentions are trusted. But over time, the mood shifts. Disappointment replaces understanding. Small issues grow into long talks. The same problems repeat. Even when you try to fix things, it is never enough. You become the cause of every mood change. Every argument points back at you. If she is unhappy, it is your fault. If she is stressed, you are the reason. If she feels ignored, you are to blame. The more you try to explain yourself, the more she says you are making excuses. The more you stay silent, the more she says you do not care. The weight gets heavier. You carry guilt that is not always yours. You become the emotional sponge for every bad day. Your own feelings get ignored. If you are upset, you are told to calm down. If you are tired, you are told to try harder. You begin to censor your thoughts just to keep the peace. You stop being honest because honesty leads to more blame. You start living in a way that avoids conflict instead of building trust. You forget what it is like to be heard without judgment. You lose the freedom to feel. You will notice how fast appreciation fades and how quickly criticism takes its place. You will notice how your effort gets turned against you. You will notice how your flaws are brought up more than your strengths. You will be blamed for things she once said she could handle. And by the time you realize how often you are being blamed, you will also realize that your words do not matter anymore. Because in her eyes, the problem is always you, even when it is not. In the beginning, she looks up to you. She listens when you speak. She values your opinions. She trusts your decisions. You feel like a man beside her. You feel strong. You feel respected. But that does not last. Slowly, the tone changes. She starts questioning everything you say. She interrupts when you speak. She rolls her eyes when you share your thoughts. She dismisses your views in front of others. You begin to notice the shift. You begin to see how you are no longer treated the same. You begin to feel small in your own house. You begin to feel like you are not leading anymore, but following her reactions. She will compare you to others. She will remind you of what you lack. She will point out your flaws when you are trying your best. She will speak to you like you are just another child in the home. She will expect you to do more, but appreciate you less. When you succeed, she will act like it is normal. When you fail, she will act like it proves something about you. The more you try to stay calm, the more she sees you as weak. The more you try to avoid arguments, the more she sees you as passive. You are no longer the man she admired. You become the man she tolerates. Respect is not something you can force. It is not something you can beg for. It is not something you can fix with gifts or words. Once it fades, it rarely returns. And when a woman no longer respects you, everything else becomes hard. The love becomes empty. The words become cold. The house becomes quiet. And you begin to wonder when you stopped being enough. At first, you think you can handle it. You think you can be the provider, the listener, the planner, the man who holds everything on his shoulders. You tell yourself it is part of being strong. You ignore how tired you are. You push your own needs to the side. You silence your doubts because you believe that is what a man is supposed to do. But little by little, you stop recognizing who you are. You wake up and go through the motions. You pretend to be okay. You nod. You agree. You keep the peace. You lose touch with your own mind. You stop asking what you want. You stop moving for yourself. You start living just to avoid conflict. You smile when you do not mean it. You say yes when you mean no. You become a version of yourself made to keep her happy, to keep the house stable, to keep the routine from falling apart. You no longer speak with conviction. You hesitate before saying what you feel. You walk on eggshells. You tell yourself it is not that bad. You tell yourself it will get better. But every year, the gap grows wider between who you are and who you used to be. Your passions fade. Your voice becomes quiet. Your fire goes out. You are not living anymore. You are managing. You are not choosing your life. You are just surviving it. You keep showing up, but a part of you is already gone. You become a ghost of the man you once were. Not because you were weak, but because you tried too hard to be everything for someone who never saw the cost. And now, you are left with one quiet question. When did you stop being you?